It is not a race. You know, at the end of the day, we're not comparing ourselves to anyone else by racing them, by trying to beat them to the finish line. We are all on our own individual path to financial freedom. Hello and welcome back to our channel. So as you guys know, we have been on this mortgage payoff journey for over 3 years now. It's been over a year, a little bit over a year that we've been documenting our mortgage payoff journey online. And so with that, of course, comes a lot of opinions and comments. And of course, we welcome those. Our comment section is public for a reason. We want to see what people have to say about what we have going on. One thing we have noticed over this time is that there is a stigma out there that in order to pay off your house or reach your financial goals, that you have to have a certain something to get there. I wanted to make this video today to break that stigma and make it very clear and give a whole lot of reasons as to why you don't have to have a certain income in order to reach your financial goals. With my husband and I, we each have one full-time job. So a lot of times people try to say that we are only able to pay as much as we are to our home because we are a double income household, which is not the case by far. Actually, I'm so happy that one of our subscribers actually commented recently that they are a single parent, one income household, and we're super thankful that you commented on our video and let us know that, because that is just one thing that I often see when it comes to people wanting to kind of discredit the hard work that we put in, or just put that stigma out there even that, oh, what about single moms? Like, they tell us that a single mom wouldn't be able to do the things that we're doing, and I feel that that is completely false. And then I just so happened to stumble across this comment on our channel talking about how they themselves are putting in that work and getting closer to their goals every single month. So we're super happy for them. And if you are also someone in that same situation, feel free to comment and let us know so we can put that out in the atmosphere even more, that you don't have to have certain things lined up in order to reach your financial goals. A reminder that I want to put out there is that when you are closing on a home, your mortgage that you are approved for is based off of your income. So for example, if your income is, let's say, $50,000 a year, you may not get approved for the same house that someone who makes more would get approved for. I actually found this screenshot on Google talking about what you would likely get approved for if that was your income in today's day and age. And so I know what I typically hear, the average it seems like people put down on their house is about $5,000. I wanted these numbers to be as realistic as possible. With today's interest rates, I know that they are typically around, let's say, 7%. And so you would likely get approved for a mortgage of $140,000. So keep that in mind when you are comparing your situation to someone else's. Due to whatever variable, your income could be different, which likely means that the amount of mortgage that they are chipping away at is higher than your mortgage, which means that you are a little bit closer to the finish line, even if your income is a little bit less than them. Unfortunately, there's a lot of comparison in today's day and age. Comparison is the thief of joy. I would love if, instead of we automatically assume what could be done due to comparing our situation to someone else's, we automatically assume that we can also accomplish what that other person is accomplishing due to the hard work that you know you could also put in. That has to be one of the more frustrating things we see, just because I don't even want that message spread across any of our channels, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is. I don't even want that message out there, because then other people see that message and they say, oh yeah, they make this amount of money, I make that amount of money, I can't do it. Before they even try to start reaching their financial goals, they ask these questions on our page, such as, well, what's your interest rate? Well, how much was your home when you guys closed? How much was your purchase price? How much do you make? Do you guys both work? And people could have good intentions when asking these questions, but unfortunately how it seems is that people are asking these questions to either discredit our work or to say, that situation is different than mine, I can't do it. And they don't even try. I would love it if people saw our videos, which is what we put it out there for, and they say, wow, they're doing this. If I put in hard work, I can do it too. Reaching financial goals is not easy, as we know, which is why I say that if you put in that hard work, you can get there. And instead of comparing our two situations, say, wow, that's a great idea. I also would love to save this amount of money, or pay off my consumer debt, or pay off my house, which can be done because if you have a 30-year mortgage, even if you pay it off a year early, you're still paying it off early. The best way to reach a financial goal is to make a plan. And that's exactly what we did. When we were literally at the closing table, when we were talking about payments, and we're just telling our realtor who's sitting here and the person who's helping us close on our loan, oh, we're going to pay off our house early. So even though it would only change our payment this amount or that amount, we don't want to do this optional thing that you're talking to us about because we want to pay off our house early. And they're probably thinking we're crazy. They're like, you're closing on a 30-year mortgage. Like, it's not the norm. And we often have to deal with radio silence when talking about our goals, or we have to deal with people saying, well, that's not a good idea because of this, because of that, because of this. Well, we're so confident in our decision. We know what we're going to do. So we're going to do everything it takes to get there. At the time at the closing table, did we know that we wanted to pay off our house in 5 years? No. Our goal back then was actually a longer time frame. Our plan was 10 years in the beginning to do this. We wanted to make it sure it was realistic because we had just went gazelle intense for 3 years to pay off our consumer debt. We want to give ourselves a lot of leniency and not make it so hard to pay off our house, but still felt that it was achievable. So starting out in the full first year, 2021, paying the amount that we did, and then at that point readjusting after I've paid a full year of mortgage payments and saying, hey, there is some way that we might be able to pay this off even sooner. After the first full year of making extra payments, we reconstructed our goal, said, hey, if we can do this for the full year of 2022, we could actually pay off this house in 5 years max. And now we are on track to do so. So it just goes to tell you, start with something super realistic and then reconstruct if needed after a year or however long it takes you to reconstruct. It is not a race. You know, at the end of the day, we're not comparing ourselves to anyone else by racing them, by trying to beat them to the finish line. We are all on our own individual path to financial freedom. If you choose a certain way to get to financial freedom by doing something completely different than we do, that's perfectly fine. We don't all have the same goals in life. So another example I'd like to give, because like I said, you have to make a plan to get there. And I think that a lot of times people don't take the time to just say, okay, I want to pay off my house and that sounds great, but how do I get there? The perfect example would be if you took out a mortgage for $250,000, you took out a 30-year mortgage at a 7% interest rate, that mortgage would be set to end by 2053. However, one way that you could pay off that mortgage 8 years early is by simply paying $200 extra a month during that time of that loan. And then just like that, you have a mortgage that is paid off in 22 years instead of 30. And $200 a month, it might seem like a little bit extra to do, especially consistently, but just think about that Target trip that you took last month that you maybe spent a little bit more than you planned. It can be as simple as that. Or maybe you're someone who eats out every other day. That money adds up, and $200 a month can get you something like paying off your house early. I definitely would want to take that step if I could. The only difference between 8 years early and ourselves is just that we had more of an aggressive goal to get there, just because we're like, well, wow, think about what we could be doing with our money if we decided to do this instead of that. Is it easy? Absolutely not. There's a ton of stuff we'd love to do with our money that we're just going to wait a little bit to do. But at the end of the day, we're content, we're homebodies. It makes it super easy. We're not people who love to go out all the time anyway. And we have 2 small kids that don't make outings very fun. But if you are someone who doesn't want to compromise something like that, but you still want to pay something off early or save money for a goal that you have coming up, every little bit counts. One thing that we could do, see someone trying to achieve a goal that we would also love to achieve, is say, hey, if you were in my situation, I make this amount of money, I have this much debt, etc., etc. How would you work towards achieving the same goal that you're trying to do? And you never know, they could respond and give you the exact situation that they would put themselves in if they were you. I know that I said every dollar counts, and I truly mean that. Even though we are super aggressive with our goal, we still try to get a payment of at least $50 a month extra on our mortgage, like that being the smallest amount that we pay, because we know that every dollar counts, and we know that's still getting us closer to our end goal. A few other things that people should definitely keep in mind when trying to reach a goal is, one, your budget is super important. important. I know we've seen those articles out there that talk about people who have a single income but make a substantial amount of money. Maybe they make $100,000, $150,000, but they're still living paycheck to paycheck. And that is likely because they're not budgeting their money well, or overspending, or they have a ton of debt, consumer debt, that they felt that, hey, because I have this income, I am then going to go out and get this and get that and get this, but it overextends them in the end. So your budget is super important. I personally go over a budget before the beginning of every month to just say, okay, how much money do we have for this, for that? We are starting to get into these winter months now here in Ohio. Gas bills are going to be expensive. It's going to be an extra expense for us. So I just set that stuff up ahead of time and adjust, because every month can be a little bit different. Another thing that we do that helps us a ton is using extra money that happens to come up towards our goals. For example, I know you guys hear me talk about 3 paycheck months all the time. We use those first 2 paychecks out of the month for bills and things that we need. And that third paycheck, it feels a little bit like a freebie. So we use that extra money that we have to put on our mortgage. That's exactly what it feels like, is extra money. So before I can even think about spending this money, I want it out and I want it put towards my goal to get us a little bit closer. And that also goes for if you're someone who gets bonuses at work, if you're someone who gets tax refunds. Majority of that money, you wouldn't have had it given the situation if you weren't having, a bonus or a tax refund. Put a ton of it towards your goals. Another thing that we try our best to take advantage of is side hustles. Like I said in the last video, I personally am not taking advantage of overtime anymore, but we still have things out there. Worst case scenario, I used to do Uber Eats, DoorDash. That's something that's still out there. Those apps don't just deactivate your account if you go a long period of time without doing them. You can still access them. Just fire that app right back up and go back to making money. If you're someone who has like local Facebook groups in your area, I know with my own personal local Facebook groups, people talk about how they need like dog sitting, cleaning their house, babysitting, etc. There's so many different options out there for you, and that's great. Even if you live like in a small town and maybe Uber Eats, DoorDash isn't right for you, these local groups that you can get in your area might still be good for you, because people are always needing something that they're willing to pay for you to help them. Even just over this weekend, we had someone post in our Facebook group that they needed help setting up a dresser and they're offering $50. That's $50 towards your goals. And this kind of goes hand in hand with budgeting, but definitely watch your spending if you can. I'm not saying don't do your self-care and all that, but put it in the budget so you don't overdo it. Or if you go to Target, stick to your list if you can, because that's how we start spending money. By the time we get to checkout, we spent all this money that we may not even have. So that's just something that was on my heart today to talk about. I definitely think that we should do a little bit less of comparison and just think that if you really put the work in, you may have the same opportunity to reach the same goals as the next person as well. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and we will see you in our next video.